2017, John Ross was one of the most electrifying prospects in the NFL draft. With his blazing speed and sky-high potential, he was supposed to be the next great deep threat in the league, but after just a few years, his career took an unexpected turn. Injuries, inconsistency, and bad luck all played a role in what would become one of the biggest what-ifs in recent NFL history. So what really happened to John Ross? Before Ross was an NFL prospect, he was making plays at the University of Washington. Coming out of high school, Ross was known for his speed, but he wasn't viewed as a top-tier wide receiver prospect just yet. That all changed once he got to Washington. In his freshman and sophomore years, he was an explosive playmaker who could stretch defenses vertically and make defenders miss in the open field. But just as he was about to break out in 2015, he suffered a torn ACL in his left knee, forcing him to miss the entire season. It was a major setback, but Ross didn't let it define him. When he returned in 2016, he put the college football world on notice. He racked up over 1,100 yards receiving and 17 touchdowns, leading Washington to a Pac-12 championship and a college football playoff appearance. His speed was unmatched, and it was clear he was ready for the next level, but no one could have predicted what would happen next. Ross stepped onto the field at the 2017 NFL Combine. He was already projected as a first-round pick, but his draft stock skyrocketed the moment he lined up for the 40-yard dash. The result?
According to what we just timed,
I would go to the house.
It appears that Chris Johnson
my plane and go home.
Is no longer the record holder at the 40-yard dash since we've been covering
I
it.
don't even think he's sweating.
A 4.22 40-yard dash, which was the fastest 40-yard dash ever. To put that into perspective, Ross was running faster than some Olympic sprinters. His performance had teams buzzing, and the Cincinnati Bengals selected him 9th overall. Ross was supposed to be a game-breaking deep threat, a player who could take the top off any defense and change the Bengals' offense overnight, but things didn't go as planned. Ross' rookie season with the Bengals was a complete disaster. He struggled with injuries from the start, dealing with knee and shoulder issues that kept him off the field, and when he finally got a chance to play, he fumbled on his very first touch, a jet sweep against the Texans, and he was immediately benched after. After a loss to the Titans, head coach Marvin Lewis went after John Ross by saying he let his team down. Andy Dalton was throwing a go ball to Ross, but he suddenly stopped mid-play. That moment summed up his rookie year. 3 games played, 0 receptions, and only 12 yards rushing. Not exactly what the Bengals had in mind, but in 2018, things started to look better. Ross stayed relatively healthy and showed glimpses of the player everyone expected him to be. He scored 7 touchdowns that year, proving he could be a red zone threat despite his small frame. However, his yardage numbers weren't impressive, just 210 yards receiving all season. The inconsistency was still there, and critics questioned whether Ross would ever live up to the hype. In 2019, Ross came out hot.
All the injuries that they've had in that tight end room the last couple of years. Uzama starting to come into his own. Dalton, a little flea flicker action. He's got Ross, and he is into the end zone for the touchdown.
Be tight. You have to work the sidelines here if you're Dalton.
Target line around the 37 for Seattle. Dalton's going to take a chance. Deep down the field. He's got his man. It's Ross for the touchdown.
He exploded for 158 yards and 2 touchdowns, showing exactly why he was drafted so high. The next week, another 100-yard performance. It looked like Ross had finally figured things out. But just when it seemed everything was turning the corner, another injury hit. Against the Steelers in Week 4, Ross suffered another injury that was almost life-threatening. Ross suffered a sternoclavicular injury, was a couple inches away from hitting the artery, and it sidelined him for over 2 months. And once again, his momentum was gone. In 8 games played, Ross had 506 yards and 3 touchdowns. By 2020, the Bengals were moving in a new direction. They had just drafted Joe Burrow, and Ross was quickly falling out of favor. He played in only 3 games that season, recording just 2 catches for 17 yards, before Cincinnati decided to move on. In just 4 seasons with the team, Ross had only played in only 27 games and missing a staggering 37 games due to injuries. He officially hit free agency in 2021, looking for a fresh start, but unfortunately, his injury history followed him wherever he went. Ross signed a 1-year deal with the New York Giants in 2021, hoping to revive his career, and for a brief moment, it looked like he had a shot.
Early now wants to take the points.
So now the Giants start from their 48, play action, and then Jones goes deep, and the catch is made, and then Ross, it's ruled a touchdown. He crossed the plane before he lost the football.
In Week 4 against the Saints, Ross made a huge 52-yard touchdown grab, showcasing his blazing speed once again, and he finished the season with just 224 yards and 1 touchdown. When the 2021 season ended, Ross was once again without a team. Despite still being in his mid-20s, teams were reluctant to take a chance on a player who had never been able to stay healthy for a full season. In 2023, Ross got one more opportunity. this time with the Kansas City Chiefs. If there was ever a team that could maximize his skill set, it was the Chiefs. With Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, Ross had the perfect situation to thrive as a deep threat, but once again, injuries and inconsistency held him back. He was cut just a few months later, and in July 2023, at only 27 years old, John Ross officially retired from the NFL. It was a shocking announcement. Many believed he still had a chance to contribute, even as a rotational player. But after years of setbacks, Ross decided to step away from the game for good. But then just when you thought his story was over, Ross made a surprise comeback. In 2024, the Philadelphia Eagles signed him after he impressed during minicamp. It was a shocking turn of events, as he had already been out of the league for nearly a year. Although he didn't really contribute for the Eagles, he's still considered a Super Bowl champ. John Ross may have never lived up to the hype of being a top 10 pick. One thing is for sure, his name will always be remembered in NFL history. His 42-second 40-yard dash remains one of the most legendary moments in combine history. Even though injuries derailed his career, he still had flashes of brilliance. For a brief time, he was one of the fastest, most exciting players in football. So what do you think? Was John Ross just unlucky, or was he simply not built for the NFL? Let me know in the comment section. And if you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing.